Online poker pro Jeff yellowsub86 Williams was a millionaire before the age of 21 after winning the 2006 European Poker Tour Grand Final. Now that he is 21, he was able to sink his teeth into the World Series of Poker bracelet race. He came very close to snagging the bracelet this year when he finished runner-up in the $1,000 No Limit Hold'em rebuy event, which was won by Michael Banducci. The event was televised, and the world got to watch as Williams made some gutsy plays to earn his deep finish. Now we've got Jeff on the phone right now to talk about that final table and some key hands, as well as what it's like to be at a televised final table. All right, well, thank you very much for being here with us today, Jeff.
Thank you.
So before we get to talking about the final table and all that good stuff, let's discuss what got you to the final table in the first place. How were you playing during the rebuy periods, and what was working for you throughout the tournament up to that final table?
Well, we actually had a pretty good rebuy table to start off the tournament. It was me and Ruthless and Terrence Chan, and actually Peter Gold, who came in third, was also at the final table, or was also at our starting table, which was pretty funny. We were trying to gamble it up, and I was prepared to be in for a lot, but there were some players on one bullet and some big nits in between us, and we didn't want to give them any free rolls, so there wasn't actually. We tried to go all in blind a bunch, but we weren't able to. So I actually in the rebuy period was probably about 10 or 12,000, which was a little bit over the minimum stack. I went from there.
A little bit over the average stack, you mean?
Well, no, I think it was under average. The minimum stack you could buy was for $4,000.
Oh, okay.
You could add on, or you could double rebuy right away to 4,000, and then with double add on, that brought you up to 8,000.
And so
anything with 12 is a little bit above the minimum. I mean, the minimum essentially.
Okay. So what's the strategy behind the entire going all in blind kind of thing? Is it just to kind of have fun at the table because you can't go bust, or is it really to accumulate chips at the table?
Well, there's a couple theories behind it. A, you want to, of course, you always want to have fun with your friends. B, you take negative EV gambles during a rebuy period if you believe that can lead you to being able to take advantage of more plus EV spots after the rebuy period. So let's say, a player is a good player, and he's going to be able to only accumulate so many chips with a 10,000 chip stack, but if he has a 30,000 chip stack, he's going to be able to pick up a lot more pots and play big pots with, relatively weaker players if he has that big stack. So you want to, if you think that you have an edge on the field, you want to try to accumulate as many chips as possible.
Okay. And as far as the time period in between when the rebuy period closed and when you got to the final table, what were you doing and what was working out for you?
Well, I was opening a fair number of pots. At 200, 400, I caught a really good double up when a guy 4-bet shoved into me with pocket sevens, and I had ace king and flopped an ace, and that put me up to I think almost 40,000. And really just opened a lot of pots after that. And right at the end of the first day, ran tens into nines, which got me up to 150, 160. A guy just I made a standard open, and he just went all in for 10, 12 times my bet, and it's pretty tough to fold pocket tens for that. So I had nine. He ended up having nines, and I won a big pot there, and came in top 3 going into the day 2.
Okay, and you say it's pretty tough to fold pocket tens there. Is it tough because it's so unlikely that they have a bigger overpair than you because they wouldn't be playing it that way? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Well, in the positions too. There was also a caller in between us, so it kind of looked a lot more like a squeeze.
Okay.
And this player had already raised all in, for wildly over bets a couple times, so I knew it was a little bit crazy. And with the positions at the table, I think I was in the cutoff or something. It makes it unlikely that I have a good hand, and when I actually do, I can't really fold it.
Gotcha. And who would have thought that a rebuy tournament would be crazy, right?
Exactly.
Well, and so most of our viewers obviously don't know what it's like to be on TV after playing a televised final table. So could you shed some light on that? Did you have a viewing party or anything like that?
Sure. They asked how many friends I had coming to the table, or to the final table area, and they all got front row seats. The 8 of them or something had front row seats, and they mic you up, and they make you come 3 hours early, and do that pregame interview that they show on ESPN. They also make you sit there for probably 10 or 15 minutes and do those camera pans where the camera is swinging up or zooming in or moving across you, where they have those shots. And they do that for forever, and you just have to sit still and just take it and do what they say. And the run up to it is actually kind of intense. I really had no idea.
Well, when you took down the EPT, was there television coverage for that?
There was. It was only in Canada and Europe, so I really didn't get to see it. But it was nothing as intense as the ESPN guys ran you through.
Well, and I mean, the entire crowd that you had at that final table really did come into play. You kept seeing, on the ESPN show, they kept showing you going to them and telling them about hands or talking about any moves that you made. So it was a good thing to start the audience.
Those are all my really good poker friends, and just like to bounce ideas off of them and make sure I'm still playing well and make sure they think confirm my reads and stuff. So it's nice to have them there. Well,
and especially at a table like that where it's such a high pressure situation. I mean, maybe you could bounce something off of them and they can cool you down after like a bad call or something like that. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crucial to have them there. Good support.
Well, and my question actually was kind of talking more about when it actually was on TV. Did you have like people over at your house to just like party and watch it or whatever?
Yeah, we probably had 30 people over at the place. We cooked out. Had some burgers, had some fries, had some beers, and everybody just made fun of me and just standard stuff. It was a good time actually.
Good to hear. Well, and so as far as watching that ESPN coverage, I mean, they showed some really ballsy plays that you had made at that final table. I mean, first off, the big hand versus Banducci, where you had the ace-9, which equated to ace-high at the end. Can you kind of explain that hand to our viewers and maybe discuss what was going through your head?
Sure. The blinds were 10 and 20,000. Banducci and I had tangled a couple times. We both had a pretty healthy respect for each other. I think that he believed we were probably the best two players up to the table. So he opens the button to 50,000, which is 2.5 times. Pretty standard open. I thought he'd be doing it really wide, and it turned out he was. I defend with ace-9, which I think is pretty standard there. I'm far ahead of his button opening range. I really can't just pass, and I really don't like re-raising because I know he's capable of 4-betting all in, with a less than premium hand and putting me in a really tough spot. So I just called pre-flop. Flop was like 10-7-3 or something.
It was 10-3-2 with two clubs.
10-3-2 with a flush draw. I checked, and he checked behind, which I'm pretty sure he would fire with any pair, a lot of good ace highs. I thought he would bet. I've kind of put him on a hand like queen jack or king queen, then just trying to see a good turn, maybe trying to make top pair on the turn or something, and not wanting to get check raised off his hand. So I checked, he checked behind. The turn was a 4, putting in 2 draws on the board now.
Yeah, 2 hearts, 2 clubs.
So I checked and he bet 65. Still kind of thought he had something like ace king or king queen, queen jack, something in that range. I didn't think the 4 really helped him. I thought he might have picked up hearts, some like 9-7 of hearts hand or something. I don't really like check raising the turn there because I think that he just he allows him to play perfectly. He just folds when I'm beat and he calls when I'm behind. So I think check calling is probably the best. River was a 7 or something,
7
including the back door. And I checked and he bet 95. This is the part of the hand where I'm still, not really sure about. That was like maybe 35% of the pot, 40% of the pot. Good players will do that with, with a sometimes not so premium hold, like a pair of 6s, a pair of 7s, a pair of 8s in the hole or something, trying to get some value out of what they might see as you trying to make a big call. But against Mike, I know he played a lot of heads up, and I knew he would definitely try to take this, maybe to the next level and try to fake value bet, which is like where you're trying to make me think like you have a pair of 8s or a pair of 9s in the hole, and I don't know. It wasn't a ton of my stack, and it would give me really good information about what he had if I was wrong, and I thought I was right. I was getting 2.5 to 1 or something. The pot was landing me pretty good odds, so I called and I was right.
And that's the end of the story, basically. Well,
basically.
Well, as you said that you didn't think that he would make a continuation bet unless he had a hand in that spot. Is that what you were saying?
Well, I'm saying that he was check behind. I'm saying that his check behind range is a lot of like, with his, like a lot of two high cards and stuff. Not wanting to get check raised off the hand, but definitely want to see a good, a turn that might be able to improve his hand. If he had, just complete rags, he would bet because he doesn't want to show it down. And if he had, a good hand, he would bet because he wants to get value out of my hand.
Okay.
So I think his check behind range there is a lot of like, semi-good hands, like a king-queen hand or something like that on that flop.
Gotcha. Well, and kind of a similar hand got you in trouble a little bit later when you had ace-king, and you ended up just having ace-high, and you called Banducci down on a few streets. You ended up folding this one on the river, but it got you in a little bit more trouble. How was that situation different?
I think I opened to, it was three-handed. I opened to 125, and he defended the big blind. The flop was like 8-8-7 or something. It
was two sevens because he had a 7.
It was 2 sevens and a 6 then?
That sounds right.
I know it was connected because that's the reason I called the flop. I think that he would lead out there with a huge range of hands. A lot of just ace highs that are just trying to get, just trying to win the pot right there. Because on a paired board, three-handed, I'm not going to connect with it very often.
Right.
Neither is he. So, I thought my ace-king high was way ahead of his betting range, which includes a lot of 9-8s, a lot of maybe 6-5s, 5-4s, straight draws, air, just queen-jack, trying to take a stab at the pot because he knows I can't connect with it very often. So I really do like my call on the flop. The turn is a little more debatable just because I don't know how many times, just not because he couldn't be bluffing as much, but I'm going to have to pay off a big bet on the river usually against a player like him who's not going to let up. I probably, in hindsight, should have just thrown it away on the turn unless I was going to call the river.
Okay.
But I thought that he would slow down a lot. If I called two streets, he actually had it this time, so,
so he
didn't slow down. But I think that if he just had like a hand like 9-8 or something, he would slow down and just check the river, try not to lose a big part of his stack.
Okay. So, I mean, even though you may regret your turn call a little bit, you at least got some information from it when he continued to lead on the river, and you just didn't think that...
Exactly. I just couldn't imagine he would bluff three streets there. I mean, he might, he's a very good player. He's definitely capable of it. But against that field, and with Peter still in, I didn't think he was trying to play a big pot with me unless he really had it.
Okay, gotcha. Well, and then the very next hand after you made that correct call with the ace-high on the river... according to Lon McCarran, you were getting a little bit cute with a 7-2 on the button. Can you kind of walk us through that kind of hand? I mean, it is a little bit standard. I mean, when you're on the button, sometimes it doesn't matter what you have. But what was going through your head?
Sure. I've been raising the button a bunch. Both of those players in the blinds, I do this kind of weak. Wouldn't play back at me without, some sort of hand. And if I'm on the button and there were good stacks behind, where they couldn't really re-raise me without committing their entire stack. But if they re-raised me, it would be, a really big raise. I think they had like 35 times the blind or something. So I was very fine with raising almost any two cards there, as 7-deuce almost is. So Peter defends the big blind. I thought his range was pretty wide because I obviously had been raising a lot, so he knew that, and he was gonna. He was looking to make a stand, I felt. And it turns out he called me with ace-deuce, which is, I really don't like his call pre-flop. I think he should just fold because he's going to have to play a pot out of position against the player who's going to put a lot of pressure on him.
Right.
As I was able to do a 7-high.
Did the 10 of diamonds of diamonds on the turn change much?
It changed a lot. I was pretty much going to give up with the hand. After betting the flop and getting called. But when I picked up a flush draw, I think that's too many outs, and he had just played the hand too weak not to try to bet again and try to take the pot away from him.
Okay. So it basically emboldened your decision to continue bluffing because you still had the possibility of actually making a hand.
Well, it turned my bluff from a stone bluff to a semi-bluff. Okay. I now had, as it turned out, I actually had pretty good equity in the pot. I had probably 30%, whereas on the flop I was drawing pretty much dead.
Yeah, with the dominated deuce. So
with the dominated deuce, but I mean, how can he know that, and how can I know that?
Exactly. Well, can you talk about your heads-up battle with Banducci?
Sure. When I got heads up, it'd been a pretty grueling three-handed match. I had about a million chips to his 5, and was looking to double up and try to get back in it. And really did grind away at him for the first probably 15 hands. My stack went from 1 million to 2.4. I made a couple top pairs, a couple pocket pairs. Was able to check raise them all in and bet 3-bet them all in a couple times. He's a very good heads-up player. He plays 25-50 online, so he's not going to make a lot of mistakes. And it's very tough to overcome a deficit that big. And the last hand, I really do think I messed up a little bit. I 3-bet all, I guess it would be 4-bet all in with ace-5. I didn't really look at the stacks. If I'd known where I was at a little better, I probably wouldn't have made the play. But by that point, I was really tired and, made a mistake.
So you're saying just you didn't realize quite how deep you were in the fact that you could fold to the third.
Exactly, quite how deep, and that I'd made such a comeback so far, and that I didn't really need to put in. The pot was for probably 70% of the chips in play or something, maybe more. So I really didn't need to gamble right there with that hand. Had I been a little shallower, I think my play's fine. But as deep as it was, I don't really like risking it there with the baby ace.
And by risking it with that like ace rag, you're kind of putting yourself at best usually like 60-40 kind of situation.
Well, I don't ever expect him to call if I'm good.
Okay.
He's never going to call it all in with king queen or something.
Gotcha.
He's too good of a player for that. So if I get called, I'm in very bad shape.
Okay.
I'm either the best case scenario is he's got a pair of 4s in the hole. But if I'm ever getting called, it's not good.
So it's your all-in bet was pretty much all about fold equity at that point?
Exactly, and I just didn't realize how deep we were and that it was a little too much to push all-in for.
Gotcha. Well, and after this final table, you went on to make the money in 2 other World Series of Poker tournaments. One was an Omaha tournament, and the other was a no-limit tournament, but both of them were rebuy events. So what is it about rebuy events with you?
I have no idea. I think those are just the events that I was able to run good in this year. I've done pretty well in rebuys. A little deeper stacks is good for aggressive players. But that's not saying I should have cashed in any of the freeze outs. I definitely should have. Just tournaments are all about running well and getting good spots, and got those in the rebuy tournaments, I guess.
Well, and does it kind of, do you think, have to do with the fact that, a rebuy is essentially a higher buy-in tournament, and the fact that you have deeper stacks? Do you think that it's just because it's more exclusive and you have more room to splash around that you think you maybe did better in these events, or was it all
exactly?
About
it is better for more skilled, and more aggressive internet players who are able to splash around and kind of put pressure on guys when they're not really used to it. Live players don't really there's not a lot of 3 and 4 betting live. But on the internet, it happens all the time. So, internet players are much better and much more accustomed to it, which deeper stacks does help out with a lot.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's all the questions I got for you. I really appreciate you doing this interview with us.
Not a problem.
And thank you guys for watching The Online Zone on Card Player TV.